Hello and welcome to a fresh episode of Tech This Week, where we bring you up to speed with the most important weekly developments in the enterprise and emerging technology space in India. In today's episode, we will be talking about Andy Jassy's announcements at the ongoing AWS reInvent Summit. PhonePe's Rahul Chari joins us on the company's hive-off from parent Flipkart. Part of Surge 04, Tripti Ahuja joins us on her company's take on a $200 billion market. Policy developments in India's technology businesses landscape, and finally, Oyo's cash runway as it closes on a COVID-19 themed 2020. I'm Supriya Roy, and joining us from the Tech Circle newsroom are my colleagues Payal Ganguly, Kunal Talgeri, and Debangana Ghosh. Hi guys, how's the week been so far?
Good end to the year, I hope, Supriya, because finally the vaccine is out.
Conference lag, with the conferences season underway and all of them obviously virtual. I think the buzz phrase should be conference lag, replacing jet lag.
Conference lag, really?
He just made it up.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. Vignesh, Supriya and I were covering AWS reInvent beginning 9:30 p.m., which would go past midnight. It begins morning specific time, and this is going to happen for 3 weeks. So lots of geeky talk.
Yeah. I mean, between all the geeky talk, the highlight, of course, was Andy Jassy's keynote, who's the CEO of Amazon Web Services. He wrote about which we wrote about on Thursday. So a segment featuring client CTOs went on for 3 hours.
Yes, so it's always nice to listen to Andy Jassy, who's been a pioneer in taking cloud services to market. He made key technology announcements this year in networking performance, machine learning, and testing environments for developers who use iOS and Mac devices. Most importantly, he said AWS is now the 5th largest IT services company in the world, with their last $10 billion of revenue coming in just a year. That's incredible.
Yeah, I guess the real wars are being fought on cloud when you look at it that way. This week also saw Flipkart hiving off its digital payments entity PhonePe into a separate company. Now, Payal, you reported on it. Can you give us a little bit more on the details?
Yeah, sure, Supriya. The plans have been underway for some time now, so it doesn't come as a surprise that PhonePe was hyped off. Even a year back, I think Walmart during one of its earnings calls said that, it was a separate opportunity and they would like to unlock the potential of PhonePe. They just stopped short of saying that they will create it move it out as a separate entity. Not much has changed though in terms of shareholding pattern for PhonePe, because Flipkart continues to be a majority stakeholder in the entity with 87% stake. Whereas Walmart will get a 10% stake in the company in lieu of a $700 million infusion of capital. As the company gets hyped off, it has been valued at $5.5 billion.
We have more on what that means to the company from the co-founder himself, Rahul Chari, who spoke to Tech Circle. Over to you, Payal and Rahul.
Thank you, Rahul, for joining us on Tech This Week. Couple of questions first. How long was the discussion on hiving off the company in the making? Because we read reports as far back as a year back. So,
hi, Payal. Thanks for having me over. Obviously, the decision and the process to spin off a company is never a short one. So it's been in discussion for, like you mentioned, about a year. But the discussions have always been in terms of how to actually make this happen in a manner that is beneficial for all parties and is done for the right reasons.
Got it. And also, Rahul, we've read reports about PhonePe going public on its own as a separate entity. So is that accurate? And if so, how are you timing it?
Right now, we are not actively working towards an IPO or planning an IPO in a specific date. In fact, I've also been asked this question about whether the spin-off has been step one towards an IPO. The spin-off itself has nothing to do with an IPO. It's not an event that has been planned with an IPO in mind. So I think it is an opportunity more than anything else to bring in more experts from the industry on the PhonePe board to be able to help us realize our broader vision of financial inclusion and becoming one of the largest financial services players in the country.
Also, Rahul, I was going through the press release which you shared, and in that you have mentioned that there'll be some focus on the MSME products as well as a couple of other launches. So, could you give us a brief about what is to come from PhonePe, what to expect in the coming year?
Sure. So I think broadly there are two areas that I'm personally very excited about. One is all of financial services. In the past year itself, if you had seen, we've launched a variety of categories and products in both insurances and mutual funds. We've launched a fairly unique product in super funds, which is a fund of funds. And we've launched equity products, debt products as a distributor. At the same time, in the insurance side, we are proud to say that we have launched a bunch of sachet products and also very recently two-wheeler and four-wheeler insurance, and are racing towards the 1 million policies mark, which is actually a great thing. Next year in financial services, you will see us going even broader in terms of the products and categories that we launch, and broader even from our partnerships. The other area that we are very excited about is the one that you mentioned, which is the opportunity to empower MSMEs and SMEs in the country. With the past year, especially through the pandemic, what has become evident is there's both a need as well as an opportunity for a player like us to be able to help a lot of these small businesses go digital. We've already helped them go digital with payments, but we are actually doubling down on our investment in going deeper into the rural sector. And we are planning to bring on 25 million merchants on board for payments by the end of 2021. And that's both a huge commitment and a very, very exciting opportunity, I believe. Outside of that, when I talk about going digital, I think there is an opportunity to see what is the model with which we can help all of these businesses broaden their customer segment. Today, their reliance on a pure footfall in their stores from an extremely hyperlocal environment is a huge restriction. I think there is an opportunity to help all these businesses broaden their reach, enable them to actually communicate better with their consumer base, and help them with payments and collections. So I think that's going to be another big area of focus, and you'll see a lot of initiatives from our end through our Switch platform and our stores platform, along with the PhonePe for Business app, that kind of brings all of this together. So between financial services and the opportunity to help MSMEs go digital, I think that's where our focus is going to be for 2021.
Would there be any acquisition for growth into the new areas where you're entering, or is that mainly to build out product on your own?
No, definitely. I think it's first-party product development. It's expansion of the team. We have been hiring even through this year very actively, and we'll be continuing to hire across all functions. And also, we are always on the lookout for acquisitions, both from the perspective of acqui-hires that will help us from the staffing for our new initiatives, as well as products that have a strong adjacency to this vision that we have. So products and platforms. So I think acquisitions and M&As will also be an area of focus, especially given the infusion that has come in with this round.
That was Payal interviewing Rahul Chari of PhonePe. Earlier this week, Aether Technologies, which is part of Sequoia's latest batch at Surge 4, raised $2.5 million in seed capital from the Rapid Scale-Up program and fund. Early-stage investor Titan Capital also joined the round with participation from angel investors including Cred founder Kunal Shah, Citrus Pay co-founders Amrish Roy and Jitendra Gupta, former Uber Eats vice president Alan Penn, and Martin Lee.
Yeah, the company offers live, private, and small group sessions with a focus on extracurricular activities for children aged between 5 and 15. It was launched by former Uber Eats India head Bhavik Rathod and entrepreneur Tripti Ahuja this September. Now, Tripti is joining us to let us in on all the details. Hi, Tripti. Thank you so much for joining us at Tech This Week. I hope you're doing well.
I'm well. Thank you, Supriya, for having me.
Congratulations on Surge.
Thank you so much. It's really our pleasure.
How has it been so far, and what is the direction that you're headed at as at a company level with Surge? Leading the way till up to March.
Sure. So, Surge, I mean, this cohort is honestly, it's been a very humbling experience. It's a very solid cohort for the fact that it's got a lot of companies that have actually been operating for a couple of years, at a minimum. And we really are the newbies in the group. But having said that, though, I think it's really inspirational to be part of Surge overall. The way the program is designed, how to build a global company, really, and that's what we're looking to gauge the most out of it.
Let's talk a bit about the fundraise, which is the newsy bit in this week. So you've raised a healthy amount of $2.5 million. Can you shed some light on the cash runway at that end and overall the fund utilization as well as the space that you're operating in? Some insights on those.
EdTech in general is a very exciting space to be right now, right? Given the COVID situation, everybody being home, I think a lot of consumer behavior has come out, which, I think will be there to stay. And the space that we are in, which is specifically extracurricular, which happens to be considered everything technically after school. And I think there's huge opportunity for us to, perpetually be online. It's a $200 billion market. And I think the exciting part about that is that with extracurricular, we're not necessarily tied to a board or to a region, which means, anything that we offer is really students, a student in India can learn the same thing that a student in Dubai or in Singapore or in US can learn. So the kind of courses that we offer on Kite are specifically focused in saying that, hey, could we build in, different areas of learning that the kids can pick up after school, which help with the holistic overall development. So that's, that I think that phenomenon is going to really stay. It also gives access to, educators to get access to students from around the world, and then students not to be, no longer physically tied to the neighborhood teachers. They can actually get educated by some of the best in their field.
How did Bhavik and you come up with the idea? Was it something that, intrinsically was developed with some sort of situation that, prevailed at real time?
Yeah. We have a daughter and we were really looking for, a destination where she could gain some of this holistic learning. And eventually we realized there's many parents like us who realize that, STEM is not everything, right? And academics is not everything. So sometimes your kids have inclinations towards other areas of learning and that's what they really want to pick up. But even a step before that is that, they'll only understand that they like something when they're exposed to it, right? So I think the new generation of parents is also recognizing slowly, and with the new NEP, which was earlier this year, which came out that, I think holistic learning overall is getting a lot of importance. Anything that falls under our bucket, it's done over years, right? So even if it's, let's say, dance, music, vocals, chess, language, nothing is learned overnight, right? You need years of sort of practice.
Sounds great. And I wish you all the very best with Surge. And, generally congratulations on at least attempting to try and shape the generations to come.
Thanks a lot, Supriya, for having me. Really appreciate it.
A lot has been happening on the policy front of the tech businesses this week. To begin with, the Confederation of All India Traders, which represents 60 million merchants of the country, wrote to PM Modi for an e-commerce policy to set up a regulatory authority to monitor the e-commerce platforms.
Yeah, the trade body said it sought to prevent FDI policy violations by these e-commerce companies. Moving on to the other side of our policy coverage at Tech Circle, late last week, the center issued guidelines to govern cab aggregators such as Ola and Uber. What gives?
Supriya, from what we have from the industry experts, looks like the cost of doing business is going to go up for all these cab aggregators, including the cost for setting up call centers, providing insurance to the drivers, etc. All of this for an industry which is yet to recover from the effect of COVID-19 related national lockdown and then is still at 60 to 65% of the pre-COVID business.
Wow. Okay. I spoke to this cab driver actually this week in Bangalore and we got discussing these new rules. From his view of it all, he said that at least a 90% commission, of the fare would have had some difference for drivers. And whereas the new rules stipulate a minimum of 80% in the driver's pocket.
Well, these are only guidelines, Supriya, and the states have to finalize what they want to go ahead with. However, Ola and Uber seem to be adopting a wait and watch kind of a attitude to the whole thing.
In another major development, Ritesh Agarwal, who is the founder of SoftBank-backed hospitality company Oyo, said that the company, including its joint ventures and businesses, hold nearly $1 billion in cash runway. Can you believe it? That's a huge number.
About that, the $1 billion figure made headlines everywhere, right? But there was a lot more of the discussion that is being quoted off, of course. It was this employees only fireside chat with Ritesh, the Oyo board director, the latest Oyo board director, Troy Alstead, who used to be Starbucks' COO back in the day, and as well as Oyo's India South Asia head, Rohit Kapoor. Now, I spoke to someone who used to look after Oyo's Europe business, near about the pandemic time. And he said that Oyo has been telling its employees that it holds $1 billion in cash for operations from the start of the pandemic. So, but yeah, beyond that, there was a lot of other talk points, being.
Yeah, Agarwal also said that Oyo decided in March that it would focus on two core businesses, hotels and holiday homes. As Supriya said earlier, Oyo's business in Europe is called Oyo Vacation Homes. It manages about 400,000 rooms, including all its brands in the continent. On business recovery in India, Rohit Kapoor said Oyo Hotels and Homes has seen a 30% month-on-month growth from August.
And with that, it's a wrap on this episode of Tech This Week. For more news and updates, log into techcircle.in. Be good, stay safe, bye.